The dry New Mexico wind kicked up dust around the small apartment complex, casting long shadows in the late afternoon light. Jay Park stood beside his beaten-up sit-in, carefully unloading cardboard boxes filled with books, computer equipment, and a few personal mementos. His hands moved methodically, each box placed with precision that spoke of years of careful practice. Daniel Harris watched from the office window, his fingers drumming impatiently on the worn wooden desk. A thick folder labeled New Tenant sat open, revealing Jay's application, a document filled with impressive credentials that somehow irritated Harris more than impressed him. Another foreigner, Harris muttered under his breath, though Jay was actually an American-born citizen with parents who had immigrated decades ago. The landlord's narrow perspective saw only what he wanted to see, someone different, someone who didn't quite fit his narrow definition of belonging. Jay seemed oblivious to the stares. He wore simple khaki pants and a faded blue t-shirt, his movements deliberate and focused. A small translation device hung from a lanyard around his neck, a hint of the complex work he did as a linguistic researcher. As he approached the office to complete his check-in, Harris's demeanor changed. A forced smile replaced his previous scowl, but the coldness in his eyes remained unchanged. "Welcome," Harris said, his tone barely concealing his discomfort. "Your paperwork seems in order." Jay nodded politely, understanding the underlying tension but choosing not to engage. "Thank you," he responded in perfect, unaccented English. "I'm looking forward to settling in." The apartment was modest, a one-bedroom unit with basic amenities. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with linguistics journals, communication theory texts, and a few novels in various languages. A sophisticated computer setup occupied the corner, multiple monitors displaying complex algorithmic patterns and translation matrices. What Harris didn't know was that Jay was no ordinary tenant. His work in advanced linguistic communication technologies had caught the attention of several government research departments. Years of studying communication patterns, from human languages to potential extraterrestrial signal structures, had made him something of an unrecognized expert in a highly specialized field. The first night in the apartment, Jay began setting up his research equipment. Specialized antennae were carefully mounted near the window, connected to a series of custom-built signal processors. Most would see a complicated mess of wires and technology. Jay saw a sophisticated communication network capable of detecting patterns invisible to standard research equipment. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, a landscape of potential and mystery. Jay understood landscapes like these held secrets, secrets that could be unlocked through patient, methodical communication. Harris continued to watch from a distance, suspicious of the quiet tenant who seemed different from others. Little did he know that the man he viewed with such distrust would soon become crucial to humanity's most extraordinary encounter. As night fell, complex algorithms began running on Jay's computer screens. Mathematical representations of potential communication structures danced in soft digital light. Something was brewing, a discovery waiting to emerge from the complex calculations and linguistic research. The apartment complex remained quiet. Only the soft hum of computer equipment and the distant howl of a desert wind broke the silence. Jay Park sat carefully, his fingers moving across keyboard and screen, unaware that his next research session would change everything. In this moment, he was just a tenant, a researcher, a person trying to understand the complex patterns of communication that connected different forms of intelligence. But soon, everything would change. The desert waited. The signals prepared to emerge. And Jay Park, unknown to the suspicious landlord watching from a distance, was about to become humanity's most unexpected hero. The night stretched forward, filled with potential and mystery. The computer screen flickered with an unusual pattern, its soft blue light casting shadows across Jay's focused face. Something was different tonight. The standard background noise of electromagnetic signals had changed, presenting a rhythm that didn't match any known communication protocol. Jay leaned closer, his fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. Mathematical algorithms transformed the strange signal into visual representations, complex geometric shapes that seemed to pulse with an intelligent design. This wasn't random interference. This was deliberate communication. Outside his apartment window, the New Mexico desert remained unchanged. Moonlight painted the landscape in silver and shadows, giving no hint of the extraordinary discovery happening inside the small living space. Crickets chirped their nightly song, unaware of the potential breakthrough happening mere feet away. The signal repeated, not like a typical radio wave or satellite transmission. This pattern contained intricate mathematical sequences that suggested something intentional, something intelligent. Daniel Harris, the landlord, had no idea that the tenant he viewed with suspicion was about to uncover something that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. Jay's specialized equipment, purchased through years of careful saving and research grants, was picking up what no standard government or military system could detect. Each mathematical sequence seemed to contain a complex language, not words in the traditional sense, but a communication structure that transcended human linguistic understanding. It was beautiful, precise, and utterly alien. Jay's hand trembled slightly as he began recording the data. Years of linguistic research had prepared him for this moment, though he never truly believed he would experience such a discovery. The signal contained mathematical harmonies that suggested not just communication, but a form of intelligence far beyond current human comprehension. A notification pinged on his secondary monitor. Automated systems were comparing the signal against known communication databases. Nothing matched. This was something entirely new. The desert wind picked up, rustling small bushes outside. A coyote howled in the distance, a reminder of the wild, unpredictable nature of this landscape. Inside, Jay continued his careful analysis, each movement calculated and precise. Hours passed. The signal continued its rhythmic dance across computer screens. Mathematical patterns transformed into potential communication structures. Something was trying to communicate. Something from beyond Earth. Jay understood that what he was seeing could change everything. First contact wasn't going to happen through massive government programs or military interventions. It was happening here, in a small apartment, with a researcher most people would never consider important. The signal grew stronger, more complex. Each iteration revealed deeper layers of potential meaning. Mathematical sequences that suggested not just communication, but a form of intelligence that operated on principles entirely different from human understanding. By dawn, Jay had compiled initial data. The signal originated from a location approximately 37 miles northwest of his apartment complex, a region of desert that appeared unremarkable on standard maps. But this signal suggested something extraordinary was hidden beneath the seemingly empty landscape. His research equipment continued recording, analyzing, transforming alien mathematical language into something humans might comprehend. Each moment brought new revelations, new possibilities. Outside, the first rays of sunlight began painting the desert in warm oranges and reds. A new day was beginning. A day that would potentially change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Jay took a deep breath. He knew what he had discovered was extraordinary, but he also understood the careful steps needed to verify and document such a groundbreaking finding. No hasty conclusions, no wild theories, just careful, methodical research. The signal continued, waiting, communicating, revealing secrets of an intelligence humans had never encountered before. And in a small apartment with a suspicious landlord nearby, and the vast New Mexico desert stretching endlessly outside, humanity's first true moment of extraterrestrial communication was about to begin. Government vehicles began arriving early that morning. Black SUVs with tinted windows rolled into the quiet apartment complex, their engines breaking the desert's natural silence. Jai watched from his window, knowing exactly why they were here. His initial data transmission to a secure research network had triggered an immediate response. What he discovered wasn't just unusual, it was potentially revolutionary. The strange signal contained mathematical sequences that suggested intelligent design, but far more complex than any human communication system. Two agents approached his apartment, clean-cut, professional, their movements synchronized like well-oiled machinery. One carried a leather briefcase, the other a tablet computer. They didn't look like they would tolerate any resistance or unnecessary conversation. Daniel Harris, the landlord, watched from a distance. His suspicious looks now seemed almost comical compared to the serious government professionals now standing at Jay's door. "Mr. Park." The first agent spoke, his voice crisp and official. "We need to discuss your recent signal analysis." Jay invited them inside, his apartment now looking more like a high-tech research station than a living space. Multiple computer screens displayed complex mathematical patterns, each screen showing different aspects of the mysterious signal. The agents were professional but visibly impressed. The younger agent couldn't hide his excitement, his eyes darting between screens and Jay's carefully organized research notes. "These sequences," the older agent said, pointing at a particularly complex screen, "they're not random, are they?" Jay shook his head. "This is deliberate communication, mathematical in nature, but with a complexity that suggests intelligent design. It's not like any human communication system." What they didn't know was that the signal was slowly revealing itself. Each hour of analysis exposed new layers of potential meaning, mathematical harmonies that suggested not just communication, but a profound alien intelligence. The research was meticulous. Jay broke down the signal into smaller components, comparing them against linguistic and mathematical models. Some sequences resembled prime number progressions. Others contained geometric patterns that seemed to fold and unfold in impossible ways. By midday, a preliminary breakthrough emerged. The signal contained what could only be described as a complex invitation, not in words, but in mathematical language that suggested curiosity about human communication. Government protocols demanded secrecy. No public announcements. No media involvement. Just careful, controlled research. Jay understood the stakes. This wasn't just about discovering an alien signal. This was about humanity's first potential meaningful communication with an extraterrestrial intelligence. The agents began setting up additional monitoring equipment, sophisticated devices that could capture and analyze the slightest variations in the signal. Jay's apartment had transformed from a simple living space to a critical research hub. Outside, the New Mexico desert remained unchanged. Cacti stood silent. Dust devils danced across empty landscapes. No one would suspect that a profound discovery was unfolding in this quiet, unassuming location. As afternoon turned to evening, the signal began changing. More complex mathematical sequences emerged. It was almost as if the unknown communicators were learning, adapting their communication based on Jay's initial responses. Daniel Harris watched from a distance, still suspicious. He had no idea that the tenant he'd barely tolerated was now at the center of potentially the most significant discovery in human history. Night fell. The signal continued. Mathematical patterns danced across computer screens. Alien communication, waiting to be understood. And Jay Park, a linguist and researcher most would have overlooked, sat at the center of it all. Carefully, precisely, decoding the unknown. The first true conversation with an alien intelligence was about to begin. The research facility buzzed with nervous energy. Jai stood before a large screen, his fingers tracing the complex signal patterns that had become both fascinating and terrifying. The translation was now clear. The signal was a reconnaissance mission, and humanity was being evaluated, not as potential friends, but as a possible threat to be neutralized. Government analysts had confirmed what Jay had suspected. The alien communication wasn't an invitation. It was a preliminary assessment, a cold and calculated examination of human potential. Their mathematical language revealed a civilization that viewed other species with clinical detachment, measuring worth through technological and cultural complexity. "They see us as primitive," Jay muttered, his voice barely a whisper. The signal contained detailed scans of Earth's technological capabilities. Military installations, communication networks, technological infrastructure, all meticulously analyzed and categorized. Humanity was being judged, and the verdict didn't seem favorable. Outside the research facility, the New Mexico desert remained unchanged. Dust kicked up by occasional wind, cacti standing silent witnesses to a potential impending conflict that no one else knew about. The government team worked in shifts. Military strategists, linguistic experts, communication specialists, all focused on understanding the alien assessment. Jay remained at the center, his unique skills bridging the impossible gap between human understanding and alien communication. Daniel Harris, the landlord, had been quietly brought into a secure briefing. His suspicion of Jay now seemed laughably insignificant compared to the potential global threat. The man he once viewed as just another difficult tenant was now humanity's unexpected first line of defense. Mathematical sequences revealed the alien perspective. They saw Earth as a developing civilization, potentially dangerous, but not yet advanced enough to be considered a serious threat. More like an observation, a clinical evaluation of a species that might need to be contained or eliminated. Jay's translation revealed something more critical. The reconnaissance mission was preparing for a potential intervention, not an immediate invasion, but a calculated approach to assess and potentially neutralize human potential before it could become a galactic threat. The research team worked frantically. Each decoded sequence provided more context, more understanding of the alien perspective. They weren't evil, Jay realized. They were pragmatic, survival-focused, viewing other civilizations as potential competitors to be managed. Military advisors prepared contingency plans. How do you defend against a civilization that communicates in pure mathematical language? How do you demonstrate complexity to beings who see the universe through cold, calculated assessment? Night fell. The signal continued its relentless communication. Mathematical patterns that suggested preparation, assessment, potential action. Jay understood something the military strategists missed. Communication was the key. Not weapons, not threats, but demonstrating the complex, unpredictable nature of human potential. He began preparing a response, not a military message, not a threat, but a complex mathematical communication that would showcase humanity's unique adaptive capabilities, a linguistic and mathematical demonstration of human complexity. The facility hummed with tension. Computer screens displayed intricate patterns, mathematical sequences that represented humanity's first true communication with an alien intelligence. Outside, the desert remained silent. Stars began appearing in the clear night sky. A landscape that had witnessed countless secrets was about to witness humanity's most extraordinary moment. Jay's fingers moved across the keyboard, each keystroke a potential turning point in human history. A message that would either prevent a potential alien intervention or invite further assessment. The alien signal waited, precise, calculating, judging. Humanity's response was about to be delivered, not through military might, not through technological showcase, but through the complex, unpredictable language of human potential. The confrontation was beginning, and Jay Park stood at its center, ready to speak a language no one had spoken before. The research facility fell silent. Jay's carefully constructed response hung in digital space, a complex mathematical language that represented humanity's most nuanced communication attempt. Outside, the New Mexico desert seemed to hold its breath. Mathematical sequences danced across multiple screens. What Jay had created wasn't just a message, it was a living, adaptive communication structure that demonstrated human creativity, complexity, and unpredictability. The alien signal changed. Subtle shifts in its pattern suggested something unexpected, confusion, then curiosity. Jay's response contained more than mathematical sequences. Hidden within the complex language were representations of human experiences, emotional complexity, cultural diversity, adaptive problem-solving. He showed them art translated into mathematical patterns, music transformed into geometric designs, scientific discoveries presented as living, breathing concepts. Government officials watched in tense silence, Military strategists held their breath. The fate of humanity balanced on these precise, calculated communications. Hours passed. The signal continued its intricate dance of communication. Each moment brought subtle changes. The alien assessment was transforming from a clinical evaluation to something more, genuine fascination. What they saw was not a primitive species. They saw a civilization of incredible potential, unpredictable, dynamic, capable of turning limitations into unexpected strengths. Daniel Harris, the landlord who once saw Joy as just another tenant, now watched in amazement. The man he had consistently underestimated was now humanity's unexpected champion. The final transmission came unexpectedly. Not a declaration of war or submission, but an invitation, a recognition of humanity's unique potential. The alien civilization had decided not to intervene. Instead, they wanted to observe, to understand this remarkable species that defied their initial calculations. Jay's hands trembled slightly. He understood the magnitude of what had just happened. Humanity had not been conquered. They had been recognized. News would be carefully managed. No public announcements. No global panic. Just a quiet, profound moment of interstellar communication. As dawn broke over the desert, the research facility buzzed with controlled excitement. Jay sat quietly, understanding that he had done something extraordinary. Not through military might, not through technological superiority, but through communication. The alien signal gradually faded, not disappeared, just transformed, waiting, observing. Humanity had passed its first true interstellar test. Outside, a coyote howled. Dust kicked up in the morning wind. The desert remained unchanged, holding its silent secret. Daniel Harris approached Jay, his previous suspicion completely transformed. "How did you do it?" he asked, genuine respect replacing his earlier attitude. Jay simply smiled. "We spoke their language," he said, "but we spoke it like humans." The research team began analyzing the final transmission. Years of study would follow. But the most important moment had already passed. Humanity had been judged, and humanity had been found fascinating. The New Mexico desert continued its timeless dance, witness to a moment that would change everything, yet remain forever secret. A new chapter in human history had begun, not with conflict, not with submission, but with understanding. And it all started in a small apartment, with a linguist most people would have overlooked, who understood that communication was the most powerful weapon humanity could possess. The signal faded, but its promise remained. Humanity was ready.